Welcome back, everyone. We're so excited for episode number 10, and we have a special guest, Naya's little brother and my cousin Jeremiah.
What's up, guys?
Hey Jeremiah, do you want to introduce yourself? Maybe say how old you are, where you're from, whatever you want to say.
Sure. I'm in ninth grade. Hopefully, we can skip a couple. But I'm in ninth grade right now. I'm 14. Savannah, Georgia. That's pretty much about me. Academically inclined, I guess.
Academically inclined. Wait, do you tell people you're from Savannah, Georgia?
I mean, I lived there for like two
Yeah,
years, but I still say like I was born in Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah.
that's so crazy. Actually, sorry, I just had a moment because you and Demi so were, and I guess I've never heard you guys say where you're from. So that's just a moment for me as big sis. I'm like, whoa, like you were actually born there. But yeah, thank you so much for introducing yourself.
Of course, of course.
And now you live in Atlanta, Naya, like an hour apart from each other.
Yeah, anything in like a 45-minute radius of Atlanta is still Atlanta.
Yeah. Nobody else knows the other cities, so yeah, technically it would.
So I guess you're 14. We're exactly 10 years apart, basically. Or your birthday's in June, actually. So we're 10 years apart. You and Naya are 11 years apart, or 12.
Yeah.
So we obviously were in ninth grade a long time ago. And so we kind of just wanted to get Jeremiah on the podcast and just like talk about what it's like being in school now, what it's like with social media, what it's like being black in this country and being in school. Like there's just so much to talk about here. And yeah, it's just a topic that I think is so interesting.
Yeah, and I think that Jeremiah, like he said, he's very academically inclined. He's very knowledgeable for him to be 14 years old, and we're always texting about different topics. So I was like, why don't we bring this to the podcast? So welcome, Jeremiah. We're so excited for you to be here, and I guess we can just get into it.
Thank
Do you
you.
have any questions for us before we get started? Because we do have some for
Yeah.
you.
I don't really know. You guys' time sounds pretty boring. I can't live without Wi-Fi currently. So
Wait. We had
okay, you
Wi-Fi.
had Wi-Fi, but what did you use Wi-Fi for? Like, what?
Oh my
How,
gosh, Jeremiah, how old do you think
10
we
years
are?
ago, like 10. That's like 2000s. That was like the birth of the internet. That was like the birth of the internet.
Wait, I didn't expect for us to get roasted right now.
Yeah, I
No,
know.
I'm just saying. Like you used to say, you used to listen to the radio. Like, I mean, like not in a car. Just like would sit down and listen to the radio. No,
Jeremiah,
no.
one, we had Wi-Fi and we also had social media.
Not this type of
We
social
had
media.
Facebook.
Oh yeah, Facebook, of
Um,
course. Yeah, yeah. You can't forget
we
Facebook.
had Facebook. I'm a little bit older, so I mean, I didn't have MySpace, but like
I
Tumblr,
didn't have
you
Tumblr.
MySpace,
know,
yeah.
and there was like a Vine
It's like,
era before TikTok too.
okay, we know
Yeah.
So there
Vine.
was
We know Vine.
definitely
We did
there
have
was definitely stuff.
Instagram. I got an Instagram, I think, when I was in sixth grade. But I remember you would post like 10 times a day and about anything. Like, I remember I got my first middle school boyfriend, and I went home and I posted a selfie and was like, best day ever, hashtag taken. And like, you would just post anything.
That is so funny. I think I didn't really get into social media until I got into high school. So I guess I was a little bit like I had it in middle school, but it really, whatever in high school was like a thing. We are always posting, always going places to post, which is really interesting because your generation doesn't post anything.
That's not true. That's not true. There's people. Okay, so I know you guys post a lot, a lot. A lot of times nowadays, I don't know. They just be using Instagram to like find people. A lot of times people just post themselves and then make it as their highlights and then they call it a day. But I do know some people they post a lot on Instagram, but it's not probably not like y'all did back in. I don't want to say back in the day since y'all want to be like that.
Oh my
Before my
God.
time, before like my time.
So what's like the cool thing to, is Instagram like the most popular app? Or, and if it is, what's like the cool thing to post?
I definitely say that TikTok and like social media wise, like I remember January 19th when TikTok was getting banned, it was like everyone on Instagram posting about it like, "Oh, my TikTok. No, please bring it." Like it was bad. Like I didn't really I'm not trying to like I don't do the doom scrolling sometimes, but like I can't believe like people care that much about TikTok. Like I wouldn't do all that just for an app, like a social media app. And then y'all get to like, I guess I don't know. TikTok does create stuff that other apps don't recreate, but I definitely say it would be TikTok. That's definitely the biggest social media platform with our age. People still use Instagram, but they would like mainly be on TikTok. Posting wise, probably Instagram though. Like posting wise, but like activity, time spent, definitely TikTok. A lot of times it's either like people post, but like either it's in their close friends, so now everyone sees it, or they just post themselves so they can make it highlights. So when someone like so you can just see what they look like. Like I don't post on Instagram at all. Like I maybe post one of my friends' birthdays every once in a while, but besides that, I don't be posting like that. So I don't really know.
So is it like uncool to put too much on your Instagram?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's like uncool. Like I'm not really. Well, I mean, people still do it. I mean, it just depends. I don't think posting a lot is uncool. I mean, it's just not that common.
And what do you mean by Instagram is used to find people? Because I know on Thanksgiving I was talking to your sister Demi, and she was saying how that's how like you find other people to date is like
Yeah,
you're
that's what.
so talk about that.
So that's why, like I was saying, people have highlights. A lot of times, that's mainly like the main thing they do. Like they post themselves. So like on how to make highlights on Instagram. And so they have their highlights. So when you slide into someone's DMs or whatever you want to call it, they see what you look like and stuff like that. But yeah, that's mainly what Instagram like. Unless, yeah, that's Instagram. You can find people to date. I would definitely say that.
That is so funny. It's also so funny to me that Instagram is used for such different things because I remember we were posting, like you said, Janessa, we were posting every day. But it wasn't
Hmm.
like today. It was just because we wanted to see what people were doing. And that's
Yeah.
why like the hashtag of like bring the old Instagram back was a thing at one point, at least for my age group. I don't know.
Hmm.
But because nowadays it just feels like it is just only stories and ads that people are seeing or that people are interacting with. So even I feel old the fact that I post dumps sometimes. I'm like, does this make me old? But
Okay, I am curious though. So with everyone your age like being so heavily on social media and their phones, do you feel like sometimes there's a disconnect between what someone is like in real life and then the vibe that they give off online?
Oh, definitely. Social skills have gotten so. I know also because of COVID and quarantine and stuff like that, but social skills have definitely like declined nowadays. Like being able to actually walk up to someone and talk to them in real life nowadays, when all you have to do is like just text them. Like I've seen people right next to each other and then they text. I've also done that before. It's definitely like we've lost social skills and definitely people acting way different than they are online. And like it's definitely true. It's definitely true.
okay, so that kind of reminds me of something that you sent me a couple weeks ago about just, people in the Black community feeling like they have to act a certain way to maybe like fit in and things like that. Tell us a little bit of what you experience as far as people feeling like they have to fit in high school nowadays, because it might have been a little bit different from when we were in high school.
Obviously, the viewers don't know. I go to a black private school. It was not a black private school. I go to a basically predominantly a full black private school. So, I wouldn't like know the full thing about trying to fit in because like my school, we try to keep it like, nah. What's a good way to say this? What the general black culture acts like. I still talk to people outside of my school, so I would definitely say for people like them, I know I talked about this to you in messages, Naya. Like people who live in suburban areas, two parent households that are like they weren't even born into I don't want to say it like this, but ghetto areas. Like they weren't born into the ghetto culture. But still, they're gonna go to
Hmm.
public school. It's sad to say it, but they're gonna go to their public school where majority of the people, even if it's because it's the same trend of people, the popular people being ghetto, and then people wanting to follow that trend to fit in. So I definitely think that happens a lot in public school nowadays. I don't want to say it's specifically to black people. I just want to say minorities in general, like being ghetto, is trying to fit in when they don't even have to. Like I said, like originally we were ghetto because of the conditions and how it was systematically made.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting too because if you go to a private school where you have like a different experience, so you're not really surrounded by that kind of pressure, it sounds like. but then it seems like it's more of a thing at public schools, right? And I guess the question is like, why is that considered to be the cool thing?
Yeah, I definitely think it's like just a majority in like validation. Like a lot of times when there's something
Hmm.
trendy going on, people want to follow that trend. Like, oh, this brand is on. Like for instance, purple jeans. I don't know why they're so expensive. There's like, do y'all know what purple jeans are? Okay, the
No.
No.
jeans are not even purple. I kid you not. They're expensive jeans because they have a tag in the back that says purple jeans.
Okay.
Don't even get me started on Balenciaga. We know how Balenciaga is. We know how Balenciaga is. But yeah, following trends like that just to fit in. Like purple jeans are normal jeans with just a tag in the back, and a bunch of people are trying to buy it. And it's more expensive than normal jeans. So I mean, if y'all want it, I don't know, but that's
So
definitely
it's just a brand. It's a brand of jeans,
yeah, purple.
like
Yeah, purple jeans.
Lululemon. Okay.
But it's
Okay.
just it's not
Got it.
even much about it. It's literally jeans with a tag on the back that says purple jeans. But yeah, that's definitely part of how like people just want when the majority does it. Like obviously with the minority communities, it's always been like that. So obviously the majority nowadays is still gonna have that mindset or still gonna act like that. So even for the people that made it out of that mindset, their children who go to public schools and are around people that
Mm.
still have it or are forced to be in it, like someone who was actually born in a poor community and is still like acting. I know it's still, I don't want to use this word, but obviously ghetto. So if that's the majority and your child is immersed in that majority, they're obviously gonna want to try to assimilate with it to fit in.
Yeah, and it also kind of feeds into, I know that we've spoken about this before in the Black community. Say you and I walk into a space and it's a room full of Black people, they might say, you talk white or you sound so proper. And that's something I've gotten my whole life. And that's something that I never understood. I'm like, just because I'm not sounding ghetto or I don't have broken English, that makes me sound like a certain race. Like, why did they get to claim this? What? Why couldn't I? You know? So, do you tend to get that too on the opposite end?
I'm not at my school because my friends know me and stuff. But I would say like when I talk to people that are like outside of my school, I definitely get the first thing: am I white or why do I sound white? I don't really like. I've straight up asked them what makes me sound white, and they say you talk proper. And then I always ask why can't minorities speak proper and not sound white? I'm not trying to be weird or
Right.
anything, but why are we attributing sounding proper to only like white? You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting because that's something that I've always gotten, again, just because of the way I talk, but I think also being biracial and like one of my parents is white. So naturally I would get that, but it's interesting, I think, because sometimes I do feel more comfortable in white spaces for that reason
Hmm.
because a white person is never going to say you sound black. Like I mean at least no none that I've been around. And
True.
it's I like obviously maybe the thought is there. I don't know. Probably not, but I feel uncomfortable when just because I talk a certain way, it's you don't sound black enough, you sound white. There was literally
Right.
a rumor in college that I was just white. Like
That,
no drop of
stop.
nothing
That's insane.
else.
You also went to a PWI. So that's a
Yeah,
whole
that's
thing
true.
within itself, you know? Yeah, that's so interesting. I can relate to you on that because I went to predominantly white schools growing up, and Jay and my little siblings go to predominantly Black schools. So it is also so interesting that Jeremiah gets that same question of why do you sound white? Why, and people are making him seem like he is acting different than his own kind. I remember when I moved from South Georgia to Virginia, I've always, like you said, felt more comfortable in white spaces because the white community is not questioning how I talk. And I might be able to relate to them on that and not feel like I am in a space where I'm going to be questioned about how I talk and the things I like and the things that I do. Whereas in the black community, I did. I got questioned all the time. So it was one of those things where I was too white for the white kids, too black, wait, too white for the black kids, and too black for the white kids because I just, it is that toss up of like, where do you belong? So, Jay, I am curious to know, how is that for you? Do you feel like you belong all of the time being in a space where you are surrounded by all people that look like you?
Well, like I said earlier, I don't really get told I sound white when I at the school I go to now, like at the school my and friend
Yeah.
group. Like, I also plan to go to an HBCU. Shout out North Carolina A&T. Definitely got a rep. But my bad, what was the question?
How do you feel like, do you ever have any issues with not feeling like you belong in certain spaces or in the school you go to or around the friends that you're with because of being a little bit different than the average Black person? Typical, I think
Not
that.
gonna lie, I'm not a fan of going to black hangouts. Like,
Okay.
I'm like a lot of times, like a lot. My sister Demi, she asked me to go to like if I want to go to football, get like her public school football games and stuff like that. I'm sad to say this, but I don't really like the majority of black people because of how we still continue to act. Like I can't with them. I can't with them. Like there's obviously a separation. Like people who act ghetto, people who try to move away from that, and people who are just born into it. But sorry to the people that are born into it, but like I just can't. I gotta stay with my people that are working on it. People that are working on it.
Yeah. And I get that. I mean, I feel like I'm the same way. I really struggle walking into spaces where I feel like, one, I'm going to be judged. Two, it is just going to be people that I'm not used to being around. So a lot of the times I do end up, like my two very best friends are white. I do end up in more white spaces than I people would probably think more white spaces than I do black spaces a lot of the times because I feel like I can relate more. But there is that side to being black where it's like there are those two sides that are kind of against each other. The ones that like people think are too good and they're trying to act proper, or the side that is like why are we against each other? Like it doesn't have to be that way. We can all, level up and be a black community and share these spaces together, but I feel like as black people, we really struggle with that.
I think part of it also relates to the fact that in this country, Black people have been in the struggle for so long. And
Yeah.
at some point, you either have to decide to stay in the loop and kind of be addicted to the struggle without even knowing it, or you have to take a lot of leaps and bounds to be able to get out of the struggle. And I think there's kind of this fear of like, what is my identity if I'm not in the struggle
Yeah.
sometimes? And it's sad, but I think that's why there is this divide because it's struggle versus not, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, I definitely have to agree with that. I don't know. It's like I hear a lot of times, like when I'm scrolling, I'm kind of on a semi-political. Like some things on my TikTok for you page are political, but I get this thing like a lot, which I find is insane to me. That it says that a lot of black people have the victim mindset. Like, oh, we had all this
Mm.
happen to us, but we're not doing anything to move on from that. But I still like a
Yeah.
lot of. Think some people can have like a victim. I wouldn't say a victim mindset, but like we have had all this happened to us 400 years of slavery. We're still going through systematic racism, believe it or not, take it as you will. But so I think the victim mindset is something that it's not something you can really blame because we still have a lot of things happening to us. I mean, George Floyd just happened, going on 5 years now, so it's like you can't really blame them. And then so now we have the black people that are trying to still move on from this while we're still being put down, and the black people that kind of giving up because like a school the other day, we were asked if do we think in our lifetime will we ever reach equality, and no, only one person stood up. So it's just we really don't know. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, and as a community, you're right. Like there is a part of us that do end up giving up. For example, like I have family members. You guys know I love to travel; it's my thing. And there are family members that will say to me, Black family members that are like, "You're not afraid of what's out there." And obviously, my first response is, "What is there to be afraid of?" But because of everything that Black people go through and go into other countries where we're not accepted, even in our own country, we're not accepted in every space. It is fear too that comes about in our community, fear of not knowing what happens if we pull away from the culture that we were placed in, fear of not knowing what people will think, what people will say, what our own people will say and do. So I totally see that. It's really something that's of a struggle, and I really admire you, Jeremiah, and even our generation for trying to see the other side of that because I do feel like a lot of times our parents and grandparents did stay in that because of the fear that came with everything else, you know?
Yeah, and I did want to ask Jeremiah, would you say that most of your peers have opinions on politics, or would you say it's kind of something that no one really talks about?
At my school, definitely politics is a big thing. Like my principal, a lot of yap sessions about politics and stuff like that. Now, I would say like for someone like an average person my age, like if we go to a random public school, I don't think they would be that involved. Obviously, I don't know if this is a thing, but I'm pretty sure public school is not. I mean, politics aren't really supposed to be talked about in public school. Like I remember one time, it was just a joke. I asked someone who didn't go to my school who was president. It was like it was this year. It was like before inauguration day. It was like January 15th. I asked who was president, and they said Trump was already president, and I was kind of shocked that people didn't know when inauguration day was. Like they thought as soon as they win the vote, they become president. I don't know. A lot of times, like they couldn't even tell me who Trump was running against. Like they aren't into politics, and I just find that insane because that's your life. That's your life. In a couple years, that's
Yeah,
you can go.
it
Yeah.
affects all of us. And I think that's something else to be said is the fact that our education systems really do not do us justice as a Black community. Like, it doesn't help that the Department of Education is gone away with at this point, but I mean, a lot of the resources that are given to certain spaces are not given to those schools that are predominantly Black schools. Like, for example, the school that Demi goes to. I don't feel like a lot of areas give as much as could be given to those spaces where there are predominantly Black children, where they could know more, where they should know more, because it does, if anything, affect minorities the most. And Jeremiah, really quick, I know that you went to a public school. Can you tell us a little bit of how you went to your mom and said, I need to get out of here? Something needs to be done, and you kind of made the shift for yourself at your age.
Yeah, so like I was saying earlier, I don't like ghetto. Like, I mean, pre-K to fifth grade, I was chill. But when I went to like move to middle school, this was actually crazy because me and my sister had the opposite views at first. So she was like, "Oh, I heard that said school is so ghetto and stuff," and I was like, "Gotta give it a try first." What's crazy? She's still going to public school. I switched sides. I just can't. Ghetto-ness is it just makes me so irritated because you don't have to be like this anymore. Yet we're still choosing to be like this, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
it's bad. I just definitely like one day I was just like I'm tired of this, and I walked up to her and said, "Is there a different school I can go to?" And well, now I'm in private school, so
Yeah,
Okay, but
and
how do you define ghetto-ness?
okay, so yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Okay, so it's a mixture. Obviously, the actual definition of ghetto is a poor area, so get that out the way. I mean, to me, being ghetto is just like it's the essence of what black people are. I mean, but obviously there's a reason for that. But like for instance, being overly loud, not being proper, like all things using broken English and things like that. Like a combination of all those things make it ghetto. Like black music, let's not bring up Sexy Red. It's insane that she's popular. Just, there's things like that.
don't get us canceled, Jeremiah.
My bad, red, whatever y'all call Sexy Red fans. You know. I'm happy a sister's making a bag, so it's just a combination of like unproperness and things like that. But obviously, like I said, it was set up to be like that. But
So what about the people that say that that's our vernacular? Because you know that there are times where white people come in and they're like, yo, 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 like da 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 da, and people are like, well, you're culture appropriating, you know? So that is an argument too, that that is part of our culture, that's part of our history. And I know it's not so much words that are being used too, but it's also actions. But I remember when you messaged me and you were like, I don't understand why people still try to move in this way. And, I kind of see it on the other side too of them really valuing the culture and valuing what brought us to where we are today. And our ancestors did have that broken English because they weren't in school and they didn't have the resources that we do now. But I also see your side in it where we do now have the resources. We don't have to stick to the old ways. We don't have to keep talking the same way that our ancestors did because they were slaves. We're not slaves. So yeah, I just find that fascinating too because that's an argument that's all over social media. Is that that's part of our vernacular. It's part of our culture and our history.
I just think like a lot of these people who still use like whatever we want to call it, African American slang and stuff like that. they're still able to code switch, and you know what
Yeah.
code switching is. So if you're able to talk like that, but you're also able to talk like somewhat normal to code switch when you're in a different group of people, obviously the original like African American slang is what you know. But if you're still able to code switch, I kind of feel like you still have the ability to like fully work on changing to not talk like that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times the African American slang, a lot of times there's still derogatory sides of it. Like you can keep some parts of it, but let's try to drop the derogatory side of it so we can like work on
Yeah.
improving the black image.
Yeah.
Wow. That was amazing, Jay. That's a
Yeah,
great
that
point.
was. Yeah, I mean, like we were talking about earlier, there is this divide of the people that still use that vernacular that, are acting quote unquote ghetto versus the people that kind of chose to step out of that a little bit. That divide is making the black image so unclear, and it almost makes people surprised when they see such intelligent black people that have such good conversations, that are so intelligent, people like the three of us, you know what I mean? It can come
Hmm.
across as surprising because of the way that the black image is portrayed.
Yeah, and I think that's what is hurtful sometimes too, as Black woman moving into a lot of spaces where there aren't a lot of people that look like me, is when when people make those comments of, "Oh, you're so proper, you're so this, you're so that," and it's also not, it's continuing to keep us in that box of we're not meant to be here, we're not welcome here, or people thinking that we should have a certain name, certain look, whatever. I remember, I'll never forget, Mackenzie tells the story all the time that somebody walked up to her one time and was like, "You don't look like a Mackenzie. I'm gonna call you Shaniqua." And
Ooh,
she was like,
that's like 100%
she was like,
racist.
"Excuse you?" Like, Shaniqua, because I'm black? Like, I can't be named
It's
Mackenzie?
100% racist. Like,
It's so racist, you know? And so, not that that was okay by any means, but I think that because other races have this perception of us, it doesn't help that we continue to feed into that. So I totally see that 100%. Like, we should do our part as well to, I don't mean like so much assimilate, but like, we don't have to keep feeding into this perception that other people have of us.
so I actually have a question
Yeah.
for you guys. So we established the two sides we kind of have with black people in America. So what do you think would like we would need to do to give the other side that kind of push to change for the better?
Okay, I think I have an answer to this. I think that we can't relate to other people's experiences because we're often so caught in our own. So even if I have a neighbor that's quote unquote acting ghetto or is black but is shaming me because I act white and we become friends, the only way for her to ever see my side is if we build that relationship. Or,
Hmm.
let's just say that someone has Jeremiah, let's just say that you were with a white woman and her family was kind of racist but didn't say anything. And when they have black grandchildren, they're going to have to straighten up. Like, they're going to have to remove these biases. And the more that we kind of force ourselves to be in relationship with one another, the more I think we really see people for who they are, not just how they act.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. It is in these interactions and these conversations and really having respect for one another in order for us to see the other side. And even if you can't fully relate to the person or be in their shoes, really having that respect of where they came from and what they've been through, because everybody has a story regardless of your race. And having those conversations is so, so important.
I
Yeah, what do you
definitely.
think, Jeremiah?
I definitely agree with you guys. Like a lot of times, it's just like the area you grew up in that really causes you to act the way you act. Like we watched this film today. It's called The Wonderful Whites of West Virginia, and it just showed on how a lot of times there is even like the white community that has a drug problem, a gang, not gang violence, but a
Hmm.
gun problem, things like that. So it's really just understanding how like the area of where you come from, and then being able to see that on the other side. So I definitely agree with what both of y'all have to say.
Yeah, and it's so interesting in other countries because America is really the only country that harps on race. Like in other countries,
Hmm.
when like here we say, "What are you?" and people say black, white, or whatever. In other countries, they'll say, "Where are you from?" Because it is the area. They judge people based on where they're from. So they're like, "Oh, I'm from North Europe, I'm from Italy, I'm from here, there, whatever. They don't say black or white. So that's so true. It really, an area too, has everything to do with that as well.
And I think a lot of times what we know is kind of what we stick with unless we choose to go out and find different information. But, like,
Yep.
for example, what you were talking about, Jeremiah, like the people in West Virginia that they're white, but they're still having a lot of these problems that are very prevalent in the black community too.
Hmm.
They only know what they grew up around. So if they grew up and all their best friends are dealing drugs, guess what? They're going to deal drugs because that's how they
Yeah.
know how to get money.
Hmm.
Versus if you grow up with a family that everyone is super well educated and went to college, got PhDs, you're going to just assume that that's the natural progression for you too. And I think it's really hard for people growing up in the struggle to imagine a different life than the one that they're surrounded by.
I also think it has everything to do with the fact that, so I just want to give you guys an example, a perfect example of my life. So Mackenzie and I, obviously both black, but both grew up in predominantly white areas. However, I grew up in the South. Well, she didn't grow up in a predominantly white area, but she played a predominantly white sport. She played lacrosse, which she was the only black person in that space. But she grew up in a predominantly black area. Okay. So growing up in the South, I had a different experience as a black person than she did in Maryland, where the area was predominantly black, where a lot of the black people are very successful. A lot of the black people in the spaces are lawyers, doctors, engineers. And she says all the time, I only knew success. Like I didn't ever think that I had to compete for my spot. Whereas I always thought I had to compete for my spot. I always thought that everybody in the space that I was in was better than me, but because I would be one black person that was welcome in that space, I had to compete for my spot. So her now living here, being in a space where she's the only black person, she sees it. She's like, this is so wild to me that you had a different perspective growing up because of where you grew up. Like the South is so different than the North too. And that's, I mean, that's another topic for another day, but I mean, that could go all the way back to slavery. Like the North was the first part of the country to abolish slavery, whereas the South still went on for years, you know? So I find that so fascinating that even where you are as a black individual can really just change how you even feel confident in the spaces that you're in.
And I did want to ask Jeremiah, obviously you grew up in Georgia your whole life and like you said you want to come to North Carolina for college, but do you ever see yourself not living in the South?
100%, 100%. I wouldn't go to the. I don't really know. Maybe somewhere in the Midwest because I'm not like into the cold that much. Like, I want those cold winters, but I definitely wouldn't see myself like just staying in the Georgia area. Y'all know Georgia, last state
Yeah.
to concede to slavery, but so
Yeah.
Georgia definitely. Yeah, like Atlanta, obviously Atlanta, Black Hollywood, Atlanta, like, but if you
Yeah.
go maybe an hour away from Atlanta, it's gonna be a quick switch up
It's Georgia.
of what you see,
Yeah.
like a quick switch up of what you see, like you have Atlanta, and then after that,
100%.
if not like Atlanta, I would definitely see myself moving out of Georgia. It would just depend. It would just depend.
So, Jay, speaking of going to other places, and Janessa, I know you said you talked about getting out there and putting yourself out there and being in other spaces as well. Jeremiah is going to India tomorrow.
I am.
How do you feel about that? Is this your first time? Oh, yeah, this is like your first time really, really on the other side of the world, right?
Yeah, the first time I used my passport was last year to Jamaica, so this is definitely a big step up going from Jamaica to just Asia in general. Like we're going to a whole different like part of the world. So I'm
Continent,
definitely
yeah.
excited for this. It's gonna be like 10 days, I think. So that's yeah, I it's a long time. So I'm definitely excited for that to see just the exposure I can have going to somewhere new, seeing the culture in
Yeah.
India, also just like seeing what India actually is. Cause I know this is a
Mhm.
big thing. A lot of times people portray like places like Africa to be this like poor place
Right.
with not a lot of stuff. But Africa is the continent with the most resources starting off. And like if you actually were
Yeah.
to go to Africa and look at the cities and stuff like that, sometimes it looks better than cities in America. So
Beautiful.
I would
Yeah.
definitely say that I would love to see what India is actually like because The internet is not that kind about India. Well, we know how the
Yeah.
internet feels about India. But yeah, I'm definitely excited. Got to take a bunch of photos. Definitely excited for it. Definitely excited for that.
That's amazing. Do you know what you guys are doing once you're there?
I'm
Is
pretty
it like
sure.
you're going with a group, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm pretty sure my the parents get an itinerary, but I'll just surprise myself. 100% I know we're gonna go see Taj Mahal. But besides
Okay.
that, who knows what we're doing for it. But I'm definitely excited because I'm pretty sure we get 5-star meals or whatever, so gotta get my money's worth or my mother's money's worth, so
Hey, I
oh
contributed
yeah,
too.
shout out to
Me too,
everybody
me
that
too.
helped pay. Shout out to everybody that helped pay. Um I already got my souvenir list. I don't know where my phone is. I got my souvenir list pulled up. Don't worry. I got y'all. I got y'all. I got my suitcase.
Oh,
I got extra space, a lot of space in the suitcase, so I got y'all. I got y'all.
well, I'm so excited for you. You know, your big sis loves the traveling, and only because my first time out of the country, I was like, oh, I have to do this again. I want to do this every day if I could. So I just know that when you come back, your whole mindset about so many things is going to be different. And I'm so excited for you to experience that because truly, especially being a black woman, but a black male in this country, it is so important that you put yourself out there and you experience so much of the world because there's so much more beyond this little space that you're in each and every day. And the first time I did it, I was like, where to next? So I cannot wait to hear all about that, Jay. I'm so excited for you.
I'll keep y'all updated. Don't
Yes,
worry.
I'm so excited. Make sure you send pictures to the family group chat.
Oh,
Yes.
I'm gonna take a bunch. Don't worry.
Are
Don't
you gonna
worry.
have Wi-Fi?
Hopefully, I mean, even if I don't, I'll find a way. I'm gonna take. Trust me, I'm gonna take photos of every second. Record.
You need to get WhatsApp.
Already, yeah, I have WhatsApp downloaded. I got y'all on WhatsApp. I got WhatsApp
Okay.
downloaded.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. Well, we thank you so much, Jeremiah. You shared so much information, and I think this was such a good conversation. And we thank all of our listeners for tuning in for another episode.
Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you, Jeremiah, for coming on as our very first guest of episode 10.
Thank you.
Woohoo!
I'd love
But
to come on more. This was pretty fun, actually. So
Right?
yeah,
It's
of
I'd
course.
love
fun.
to come.
Well, thank you guys so much. We hope to see you guys again next week. Love, Naya.
Love, Janessa.
Love Jeremiah.
Bye.
Bye.